So in the last video I left you just about to calculate, and the first time we calculate it'll probably come up with this error here to say where do we want to normalize to. And if we remember, we want to normalize to the isocenter. Now it's asking us if we want to normalize to the anti-isocenter, and that's just what it defaults to. Actually we could pick any isocenter because the isocenter for all four fields is in the same place, isn't it? So we can just click OK there. And that's our first dose distribution. So what I'm going to do, just to make kind of viewing things easier, is to make sure we've all got similar views in terms of our dose distribution. So first thing we do is sort out our isodoses. So we go planning, isodose levels, and this is something that you might change quite a few times. So we can tick and untick as many isodoses as we want on at a time if we think it's too busy or we need to see some more information. So what I would do is untick the 3D ones because I don't think they're much use at all. If yours looks different to mine, then what we want is that in this levels here is this relative default. So I'm going to click OK there, and so that reduces the number of lines on this page here. So what I want to do is untick all of my structures other than PTV at the moment. So if you've not done that, I would do that. And we can start off now by just having a visual look at our dose distribution. So I'm going to zoom in there, and if we remember, we're interested in 95 to 107. So on each slice, what I want to do is be able to see that the light blue line, this one here, is covering the dark blue line, which is the PTV. So I can see there, I might describe that as being a little bit baggy. And we can see that it's a square field, and we'd expect it to be square because all of our fields are converging in the middle and causing that square shape. But as we can see, we've not actually got too bad of job. So that 0.5 all the way around, on most slices we're not a million miles from where we want to be, but one place where we are underdosing a little bit is here, this point here. Now I'm fairly familiar with looking at 3D images, so I know that this is pretty much the bottom slice, but if you're unsure, what we can do to check is this grey line here shows exactly where we are in that view as well. So we can see that I'm on that plane there and I'm right at the inferior end. And this is, as I've probably mentioned to you before, probably one of the trickiest things to do in order to sort out in our head where we are in the patient is trying to think in 3D. So the first thing we're going to optimize, I think, is going to be our beam weighting. And now I'm going to do this in a set order just for the purposes for the video, but actually you can do them you could do these steps in any order that you want. So what I'm going to suggest is that I want to reduce the dose through one of my fields, and so just have a little bit of a think for a second what that field might be. And hopefully you've decided that we need it to be the post field, and the reason for the post field is because we want to reduce the dose to the rectum. So if we want to see how much dose is going through each field, what we're going to do is go to planning and field weight. You'll see you could also just hit the F3 key as a shortcut as well. And what this tells me is that we've got 25% of the dose going through each of the beams. And what I'm going to do is just tick that interactive button down there, and you'll see what that does in a moment. So with 25% going through each beam, we've got equal beam weighting. And if we look at this brown line here, this tells me that all this area here, all this area here, all this area here, and all this area here is getting 50% of the dose or more. So the rectum down here is all in that 50% or more dose range. So I don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do is reduce the dose to the post field. And so there's a number of ways I can do that in Eclipse. The easiest way is to use these slider bars. And so what I'm going to do, there's my post field, this one here, and you'll see I can, if I wanted to increase it, it increases it. and it reduces the other, so we always want it to add up to 100. And this is a really nice tool on this bit of software that actually does the maths for you. On some other bits of software you have to play with that, you have to work it out yourself. So if I reduce it all the way, we can see that I've got nothing going through that and 33% through the other two. Now what we want to do is try and balance the plan out in terms of the dose outside of the PTV. So what I'm going to suggest is we have about 10%, something like that, going through that post field, and we can tweak that later on. So now I can see I've increased the dose posteriorly, but I've increased the dose laterally and anteriorly quite a bit there. And one thing I want to try and achieve is to have no 80% outside of the PTV, and you can see that I've got this now. So we've got 80% over here because that's the pink line, and we've got lots of 70% over there. So what I want to try and do is even it out, so we've got a bit more dose up here and then a bit less dose down here. So to do that, I'm going to again use my slider. What I'm going to say this time is I'm going to select post, and I'm going to tick that, and that locks that. So that means no matter what I do now, I'm not affecting my post field. And what I'm going to do is just slowly increase my ant field, should I say, sorry. And as I'm doing that, can you see that it's reducing the dose to the lateral beams? And if I went to the extremes, then we've got a mega hotspot up here and no dose out here. So what I want to do is just adjust this slider to get me somewhere where it's all even, and that's about there. And we can see that there's no 70% there, no 70% there, and no 70% there. And I'm going to scroll up and down just to see, and that's quite even now. I'm quite happy with that. So that's my first dose calculation, and that's my rough weighting sorted. And we'll probably have to come back and tweak those in a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to close that, and I'll leave that now for that video.